Well, we basically got a version of Anarchy in the Arena tonight to close out AEW Dynamite. That I was not expecting, and it was not easy keeping track of what was going on in that final match. But boy, if you want action, they gave you plenty of that. There wasn't a whole lot of psychology or storytelling to be had there in that final match, if that's your thing. But if you want nonstop action, if you want music playing in the background for half the match, that's what you got tonight. And Jack Perry picks up a win over Ricochet at the end of all of it, so that means we're going to be running it back again, probably at Revolution, for the national title. But besides that, tonight's show is built around really two things that I was looking for coming into the show. Number one, the resolution to what the stipulation would be for the AEW World Title match at Revolution between MJF and Hangman Adam Page. Hangman said he wanted Texas Death. MJF said he would come back at him with a stipulation of his own, and they would resolve it on Dynamite this week. And when the segment was over, what did we have? We had Texas Death. They dragged it out for an entire week just to give us the stipulation that we already expected in the first place. So not a whole lot going on there. We know that Hangman has said that if he doesn't win at Revolution, he will never again challenge for the AEW World title. MJF tried to go a different way with it and wanted to have a stipulation where he could do anything he wants. MJF could do nothing, or Hangman rather, could do nothing without potentially getting himself disqualified. And Hangman was not going to go for that. So we have Texas Death, as we expected, going into Revolution. They're not in Texas, they're in Los Angeles, but we're going to have Texas Death. They said Hangman is 5-1 in Texas Death matches. I do believe that is about to become 5-2. We had our first words, though. This was the other thing I was looking for from Swerve Strickland, because there are people who are not convinced that Swerve turned heel on the show last week. And you watch what happened on the show last week, and you watch, what he had to say on the show tonight. I don't really think there could be any doubt as to whether or not what it was a heel turn. Yes, it was a heel turn. And so we got to hear from him. We'll get into what he had to say. He also has a match that was very heavily teased for Revolution, so it looks like he found himself an opponent on that show. Unfortunately, we had an injury tonight. Not the first time that we have had an injury in the last 48 hours on a wrestling show. And it came during the women's tag team title match, which had a terrible finish that I am certain was an audible that was called, because how often do we even see AEW doing DQ finishes like this? When I saw that they were giving another match to Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford for the tag team titles, I said, well, why run this match back again unless they're going to do a title change this time? So I'm convinced that we were in for a title change tonight. And unfortunately, that did not happen due to an injury to Penelope Ford. And we don't have all the details. It was clearly some sort of leg injury, foot, knee, something of that nature. We'll get into that. Not a terribly interesting first hour of the show. The second hour was better than the first. But certainly the best wrestling show of the week so far. The bar was set very low on Monday. We'll see what SmackDown has for us on Friday before we decide who gets the award for show of the week. But by default, Dynamite is in the lead so far. Again, not a hard thing to do. But look, Dynamite, they have churned out a bunch of very good shows so far this year. I'm not sure I like this show top to bottom quite as much as I did last week. But we got a lot of good wrestling on the show. We did have some story progression on the show. I wasn't a fan of everything that they did tonight, but there was enough there to, have me sit here and tell you that I was never bored. And to me, that's the most important thing. I don't want to be bored sitting here watching my wrestling show. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday night, February 25th, 2026. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. If you want to get them on in, do so right now, and I will be reading all of your messages. And I want to thank everybody for checking out the Uncrowned Wrestling Show, courtesy of Yahoo Sports. Episode number 3 dropped yesterday on the Ariel Helwani Show feed. Gotten a lot of good feedback so far. Longest show yet, so go check it out if you want 90 minutes to kill tomorrow listening and talking about pro wrestling. The Uncrowned Wrestling Show is here for you. I am here for you. I'm here for you tonight. We're going to talk Dynamite tonight. That is the focus of why we are all here. But before we do that, we have to bring up the wheel. The Wheel o' Fun. See, this is what MJF should have done with Hangman tonight. They should have put the wheel up on the big screen. They had a whole bunch of stipulations on there, and they could have decided the stipulation that way. Like they used to do in WCW. Let's see how many likes we need for Be the Booker tonight. $324 likes. I know we're already over 120, 130. I think something like that. That should be easy. So 324 is the goal. Get to work. And we'll see if we make it there. Hey, Rojo Bear, thank you for 48 months of channel membership. We had Excalibur, Nigel McGuinness, and Tony Schiavone on the call tonight. They opened with Jon Moxley taking on El Clone of the Don Callis family. This was another Continental title eliminator match. Mrs. Moxley was at ringside. She was checking in from the ringside area, and when Moxley came down, he came down with Marina Shafir. So Renee goes over to Marina Shafir, and she wants to know what is the origin of the pre-match slap, where she slaps Moxley across the face. And she explained that there's no pain in the slap, only joy, which was a very weird thing to say to the woman who was actually married to Jon Moxley. So Mrs. Moxley is interviewing another woman about why it is that she slaps her husband every time they come down to the ring. And she says, it's not about pain, it's about pleasure. Okay. Am I the only one who finds that a little weird? I think so. So it was all El Clone during the commercial break until Moxley blasted him as he tried a low tope. And then he delivered a curb stomp to Clone on the apron. So at this point, we are informed that 10 minutes have passed. And again, these matches, I believe, have 20-minute time limits on TV. So Clone beat the count back inside. He got clotheslined right back out. And that gave Moxley a chance to hit a tope of his own. Clone fought back. He threw a kick that looked like it got Moxley low. Tried for a head of steam. He got dropped with a King Kong lariat. Stalling pile driver connects. Clone, though, got a shoulder up. So Clone escaped a rear naked choke into a bicycle kick, followed by a one-legged springboard moonsault from the top to the floor. And he wanted to springboard back inside. Moxley, though, got just enough of a cutter. Didn't get all of it, but he got just enough of a cutter. And both men were down. So they pop up at the same time. 5-minute time call. We got 5 minutes left. Clone went up top. He had a double stomp. Very close near fall. He wanted a portal bomb. Moxley, though, managed to spin out into a paradigm shift. And then he took it home with a Death Rider. And he spiked him right on the crown of his head. And Jon Moxley wins yet another eliminator match. Solid opener. I don't think it needed to go 16 minutes. I think that's a bit much. But they went 16 minutes with this. And it's another Callis family member checked off the list here. He's going through them one by one ahead of his match with Takeshita, who is not on the show. But we know that he will be defending the title, no time limits, against Konosuke Takeshita at Revolution. So this was exactly what I expected it to be. Nothing more, nothing less. They aired highlights of last week's main event between Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland, the best TV match all year. And Swerve's heel turn, yes, a heel turn, when the match was over. We come back live to ringside. We could hear the voice of Prince Nana. And he is now at ringside in front of the announce desk. And he's yelling at them for running their mouths about $100,000. Says, you think Swerve cares about $100,000 in a week off? So he calls the announcers stupid fools, tells them to leave the desk. See, this is how you know he's a heel now. Because you have Prince Nana coming out to the ring calling Tony Schiavone all sorts of bad names. You know, he's calling him stupid fools. Anybody who insults Tony Schiavone on the show, it's instant heat. So the announcers get up and I don't know where they went, but they moved out of the way. They vacated the desk. And Nana introduced the most dangerous man in AEW. As Swerve Strickland walked out from the crowd, he had a chain around his neck. He stood up on top of the announce desk. And the crowd is booing, which is what you do when someone has turned heel. Swerve asked the sickos if they missed him. He figured they would enjoy what he did to Kenny last week, and they booed. Said he figures that's what happens when it comes to their favorites. He joked about how much they seem to have reinforced the announce desk this week after he drove Omega's head through it last week. He feels no guilt, simply for the fact that he warned him whatever happens next is on him. Said he got in Swerve's path for the AEW World title, and he had the nerve to call someone else the most dangerous man in AEW. He goes, Kenny, are you dumb? By beating him, he's back in line now for a shot at the world title. He told him that he would put him down, and he is nothing if not a man of his word. Not only did he challenge him as a man, he challenged him as a threat. Someone at this point in the promo screamed out that he's a piece of shit. And Swerve told him, "Ya mama, boy." Which, I mean, in terms of comebacks, is kind of the low-hanging fruit. That's not exactly a terribly creative comeback. But that was his comeback. He says that officially makes all of the elite taken out by him, one by one. And he wants to go back to the week of All in Texas and a conversation that he had with Hangman Adam Page. Hangman asked him if he regretted doing all of the dastardly things that he did to get to the AEW World title, and he told him yes. But upon further reflection, that was the most successful point of his career. And so now he chooses to live life with no regrets. So here's a warning to the AEW roster. Every one of you is on notice. Any one of you could get clipped whenever he chooses to do so. And he'll remind them, in case they forgot, who the most dangerous man in AEW still is. What we got here, I mean, I can't say it was much of an explanation. It was a pretty basic explanation. Why did he do to Kenny Omega what he did? Why did he clip Kenny Omega last week? Well, the obvious answer is that Kenny Omega is not going to be around for Revolution. That's why they wrote him off TV last week. But in terms of why he did what he did, he's laser focused on the world title, right? I mean, you could just see the angle that they did. You could just read his eyes last week, right? He was looking into the camera saying, I needed this. I needed this. He's trying to clear the field. You know, he's trying to take out as many people as he can because he wants to get back the world championship. That's why he did to Kenny Omega what he did to Kenny Omega. It wasn't just enough to beat him. He wanted to take him out of the picture altogether. And this was him coming out and extending a threat to everybody on the roster. If you get in my way, same thing is going to happen to you. My manhood was challenged, right? I was told that I wasn't the most dangerous man. I'll show you that I'm the most dangerous man, which is the other reason why he did what he did. So it's a very basic, straightforward explanation here. But again, pretty clear if you were on the fence about whether or not it's a heel turn or he's a tweener or anything like that. He was pretty well heeled. He had fans booing him. He had fans calling him a piece of shit. It's pretty clear what's going on here. And also, I think I said this last week, when I look at the world title match at Revolution, since he's really gunning for people who are in his way, trying to clear the deck, it doesn't seem to bode well for Hangman at Revolution, especially in a match like Texas Death where there are no rules. Anybody can get involved, right? Look at what happened at All In last year in Texas. Everybody got involved. Swerve Strickland's very good chance he will get involved in that match. Because he knows if he gets involved in that match, not only does he cost Hangman the chance to win the title, but he could ruin Hangman's chances of ever again being able to challenge for the world title. Why wouldn't he get involved? He's a threat. Seems pretty clear to me that would be the direction they're going in here. Unless you believe that Hangman is going to win the title. And they're going to do Hangman and Swerve because of all the matches we had with Hangman and Swerve, it was never for the championship. You know, there is a certain appeal in doing that match again, but this time for the world title. But I just don't see it happening yet. Can't take that title off MJF yet. It's got too many people gunning for him. We had Orange Cassidy against Gabe Kidd. Kidd controlled through most of the break. Cassidy tried his spinning DDT, but he just got tossed outside. Cassidy played cat and mouse outside. He hit a Stun Dog Millionaire back inside. Gabe fought off a beach break into a sunset flip, and that allowed Cassidy to roll through into a PK, and then he finally hit that spinning DDT. So a little bit later on, Kidd tried the bounce back lariat. Cassidy hit a right hand and caused Kidd to bounce back again. This time he hit the lariat. We got a reset. Cassidy jumped up for the orange punch. Kidd pulled Bryce Remsburg in the way. This is the second week in a row now that the referee has been pulled in the way. These referees ought to be getting hazard pay working on this show. So Cassidy pulled back. So he didn't punch Bryce. He pulled back before making contact. That allowed Kidd to dig his thumb into his eyes, and he hit a big pile driver for the win. After the match, Kidd called out his partner in crime, fellow war dog, Clark Connors, who rushed to the ring and attacked Cassidy until Darby Allin ran out with his skateboard, his trusty skateboard, cracked Kidd in the throat with it. Darby rolled the skateboard to Connors, and that distracted him long enough for Darby to come in and hit a code red. Kidd tried to attack, but he jumped from the second rope. Basically, Darby went to the second rope. He had the skateboard. He put the skateboard under his feet. He jumped and landed with the skateboard across Gabe Kidd's back. And at that point, the War Dogs were forced to retreat. So this, I guess you could say, was the biggest angle they've done in weeks with Darby. Darby's been coming out of the crowd and snatching him up and kidnapping people. So this was better than what they've had him doing. I mean, I can't say that I'm terribly invested in this whole Darby Allin War Dog story here. So are we getting a rematch with Darby and Gabe Kidd at Revolution? Are they going to do a tag team match, maybe on TV? Darby and Orange Cassidy against the War Dogs. I see that more as a TV match, if anything. More likely they'll run Darby and Gabe Kidd back with a stipulation, I would think, in LA. So on commentary, they talked about Tekla winning the AEW Women's World Championship a few weeks ago and the injuries that Chris Statlander suffered in the process. Only today was Statlander medically cleared. So then we're told that Thunder Rosa is going to be challenging Tekla next week for the AEW Women's World title after she won her match against Julia Hart on Collision. I should point out, that was the first match that Thunder Rosa wrestled since July. She beat Julia Hart, and that put her in line now for a world championship match. Wow. It's awfully quick, don't you think? I would have to think that she would need to do a little bit more than that to earn a world title match, but evidently not. You just beat Julia Hart, and that's it. Boom. You get a world title match. So Renee was backstage with Statlander and Rosa was all fired up, and she interrupted, and I don't have time, she said, for Tekla's games. Title that you're holding was built by women like me. Statlander again told her, look, be careful. And Rosa questioned, you don't think I can do this? Rosa issued a challenge to a tag team match on Collision. It'll be her and Statlander against the Sisters of Sin. Rosa says she doesn't need to be careful, and then she walked off. And Renee asked Statlander, why are you so adamant about Rosa needing to be careful? And instead of answering the question, she just shook her head and walked off. I don't know why Statlander is being so melodramatic these last couple of weeks, but apparently she fears for this woman's life. I guess Tekla is just that dangerous. Statlander is very concerned for Thunder Rosa's safety. Thunder Rosa will not be winning the world title next week. Thunder Rosa will actually end up being the sacrificial lamb. My guess is that they're going to pay off this concern on Statlander's part by having them do something heinous to Rosa next week. Statlander's been cleared again, so that sets the table for a rematch with her and Tekla for the belt at Revolution. I assume that's where this is going. This is Tony Khan's new favorite thing that he does now. We got a standby match. Not even an hour into the show, we have a standby match. With the Jet, Kevin Knight, taking on Mansoor. Speedball Mike Bailey walked out with Kevin Knight. He did not come to the ring with him. He went to the back. They aired footage of some of Knight's recent wins in singles matches and trios matches. This did not last very long. Kevin Knight hit a Manhattan drop spinebuster combo. Mansoor missed a moonsault, which allowed Knight to hit a kick and a springing Hurricane Rana from the corner. Pendulum DDT spiked Mansoor, and then Knight went up and he hit the UFO splash for the win. After the match was over, Knight took the mic, got some rare solo mic time in the ring, and he said that felt good for Mr. Two Fly in the Mile High City. Knight said that Hangman is going to wipe the floor with MJF no matter what the stipulation is for Revolution. And he said, when Hangman wins the title, I want to be the first challenger for that title. He said, I know this might be premature, but not only am I the future, I am the here and now. So last week it was a win for him over the Beast Mortos. This week it was a win over Mansoor. And it doesn't matter who he's in the ring wrestling. There's a purpose here to these matches. This is good, by the way. I'm actually glad to see them doing this on the main show, not just on Collision, because if they are high on Kevin Knight, then this is the sort of thing you need to do. Not just put him in the ring and feed him wins. That's very important. But put a microphone in his hand. You know, he wasn't out there with anybody else. It was just him and the live crowd. Put him out there live on TV with a mic in his hand and let him speak to the audience. Let him connect with the audience. That is how you get someone over. So I think what they're doing with him is the correct thing to be doing. Now, at some point, you've got to put him in the ring with people that are a little more credible than, you know, the Beast Mortos, who never wins, and Mansoor, who I don't even remember if Mansoor has ever been on Dynamite before. This might have been his Dynamite debut for all I know. I don't know. And he's had some credible wins in the past, you know, over Okada and Darby Allin, but, you know, you sort of graduate to that and then get him involved in something a little bit more than this. But right now they're building. You know, they're trying to build him up, and the hope is that this will be a breakout year for him in the way that last year was the breakout year for someone like Kyle Fletcher. The goal should be to get him to a level where Fletcher is at right now. And he could be one of those hot young stars on the roster that Tony Khan can really lean on in these next couple of years. So, again, him against Mansoor, quick squash, but it's just getting him consistently featured on the show. That's what they need to be doing. So that I like. Now, after this, Tony Schiavone was in the ring. This was the top of the hour, and he was in the ring to introduce us to the two participants in the AEW World Title match at Revolution on March 15th. And so first, he introduced Hangman Page, followed by the champion. MJF comes down to the ring. MJF retained his AEW World Title, by the way, last week in House of Glory, over Zilla Fatu, and then he had a little run-in backstage. He had a little run-in during the match, and then again backstage with Andrade El Idolo. And I'll repeat what I said last week, which is that should be the match for Grand Slam Mexico. Wait until you're back at Arena Mexico, and you do that match there. Easy heat. Andrade, he'll be so over there. MJF will be hated, especially after that program with Mystico. And it'll just be a very fun atmosphere for that match. So anyway, MJF called Hangman very brave for saying last week that if he does not win the title, he would never again challenge for it. But it's going to become the second man now, he is, to fall to that stipulation at the hands of MJF. Never said Cody's name, but we all knew who he was talking about. He said the potheads in Denver, they're not going to have any say in the stipulation for my match for the world championship. He says, if you smoke dope, you'll go broke. I thought I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon. They always had a moral message of some kind. See, that's what I miss. That's why I'm kind of hoping at the end of this new Masters of the Universe movie that's coming out in a few months, that we have some sort of a moral at the end of the movie. I mean, otherwise, what are we doing here? Got to be some message from He-Man. If you're going to do it the right way, right? MJF is not wrong, by the way. If you smoke dope, you'll go broke. Well, what did they say on the Saved by the Bell back in the day? There's no hope in dope. That's what it was. MJF's a little young for Saved by the Bell. What he's done, though, is figure out a way that's more than fair to decide on a stipulation for their match. And he said, hold on, I just want to throw my gum in the garbage. And he threw it into the crowd. So in his pocket is a quarter. If he flips the quarter and it lands on tails, then they'll have a Texas death match, as Hangman wanted to have. But if the coin lands on heads, they'll have the match of his choosing. The greatest match stipulation ever conceived. He calls it the one-way, no disqualification match. Meaning, he can do whatever the hell he wants, and if Hangman so much as looks at a weapon, then he will be disqualified. So are you the hypocrite that I think you are? He said it's a game of chance. 50-50 odds. It's a fair game. Are you a cowboy or are you a coward? Now, if you're watching this, I mean, you know where this is going. It's pretty clear where this is headed. But Hangman says, fine, I'll do it. I'll do it. But before you flip that coin, he wants to make sure that he understands what he's doing here tonight, because Texas Death will change you. Who would MJF be if, let's say, Hangman found a bag of broken glass and he poured it on the mat, he grabbed him by the ankle and he dragged him through it, tearing his flesh? Who would he be? Who would he be if he happened to find, let's say, a strand of barbed wire? And he crammed it between MJF's lips. And he tore his gums apart. And if they were all lucky, they would tear his tongue out too. Who would he be? For years, MJF has called himself the devil, but this hell is his. And if it's Texas Death, then he truly doesn't stand a chance. And sure, he could win any kind of match, even MJF's dog shit stipulation. But he put his entire future on the line. Because if the Hangman is going to wrestle MJF, he wants this to be it. He wants to leave absolutely no doubt who the better man is. And if he can't beat a piece of shit like him, then he doesn't deserve to be the AEW World Champion. So let's flip that coin and see what fate has in store for them. MJF said, I'm feeling lucky. So he flips the coin. Actually, he flips the coin, and then he tells Tony Schiavone, call it. And the camera pans down, and it landed on heads. And Schiavone, and they quickly snatched the coin back as quickly as possible, and he put it in his pocket. And Schiavone said that the match is going to be a one-way disqualification, or a one-way no disqualification match at Revolution. And he could not leave the ring fast enough. MJF is like, all right, got my step, peace out. And he goes to leave. Hangman told him, not so fast. Give me the quarter. I want to see the quarter. Said, I don't trust you. MJF said, look, I'm not giving you a damn thing. And he went to go leave. Before he could get back behind the curtain, Jet Speed came out. And then Brody King walked out with Bandito to block his path. Brody, now they had like a short ramp to the ring. And Brody basically backed him up all the way to the ropes. MJF was begging off, and Brody took the coin, handed it to Hangman. And of course, it was a double-sided coin. Tony Schiavone suddenly said, wait, I'm getting word in my ear from Tony Khan that since the coin was rigged, the match at Revolution will in fact be a Texas death match. See, I think that's very unfair. I think the fair thing to do would have been to reverse the stipulation, where Hangman is allowed to go in there and do whatever he wants, no disqualification. But if MJF so much as looks at a weapon, he's disqualified and loses the championship. So you got to add that little caveat in there. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But instead, Hangman got his stipulation. When this was over, it just felt like a pointless exercise because we already knew this was going to be Texas Death. They said as much last week. So the question this week was, okay, what's this other stipulation? Are they going to combine the two stipulations? Are we just going to get Texas Death, which we already knew? And the answer is yes, that's exactly what they did. They dragged it out for a week to give us the stipulation that we already knew we were going to get. So honestly, when it was all over, it kind of felt, pointless. And it made Hangman look very foolish for not. I mean, he's like, oh, I knew you were going to do this. Well, then why'd you let him flip the coin? If you knew it was a double-sided coin, why'd you let him flip it? So these are all valid questions, but it wouldn't have worked then. They designed the segment in a certain way where that wouldn't have worked. But when it was over, it's like, okay, we're getting the match that we all expected to get. So it will be Texas Death. And they pointed out that Hangman is 5-1 in Texas Death matches. And I suspect he is about to become 5-2 thanks to one Swerve Strickland. So get ready for blood, thumbtacks, barbed wire, broken glass, possibly some needles. What else have we seen in these matches? Cinder blocks. What am I missing? Staple guns, tasers. What else are they going to come up with here for this match? I feel like this is every AEW pay-per-view. It's basically like one giant saw trap. Get ready. We had the AEW Women's Tag Team titles on the line. Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, defending their titles against Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. And they had Lena Cross in their corner. Now, this was a rematch from Grand Slam Australia. Grand Slam is where Lena Cross made her debut after the match was over, inexplicably. All because they wanted to give Harley Cameron a win in Australia. So when I saw they were running this match back here, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to get a title change here on this show because otherwise there is no point. Why even run this match back? Unless you were going to put the titles on Bayne and Ford. So that was what I was expecting. And plus now Lena Cross is with them, whereas she came out after the match last time, so I'm sure she's going to factor into it in some way. I mean, the stars were all aligned here for a title change. But before a commercial break, Bayne knocked Cameron off the apron. Then she took out both Babes of Wrath with an elbow suicida. Penelope Ford, who was already outside, she climbs up to the top rope, and she's going for a moonsault. She comes off the top rope with the moonsault and basically lands on her feet because nobody catches her. They just not mistimed it. They basically just misjudged the position, I guess, or where to stand or whatever. They put their arms out. Nobody caught her. So she comes down on, straight down, and it didn't really look like, it's not like she landed and you could see, oh my God, she landed at this horrific angle and her leg was bent. Like, no, it didn't look like anything out of the ordinary. But she's down on the ground and she didn't get up. I mean, she got up to her knees, but she never got back in the ring. And in fact, she never got back in the match. For the remainder of the match, she was outside. So we'll have more on that here in a second. Bayne fought off a Death Valley driver. She tried her Fate's Descent. Nightingale countered into a released German to the outside, followed by a cannonball off the apron. Back inside, Willow tried the Dr. Bomb. Bayne, though, backed her into the corner when Lena Cross comes into the ring and she blasts Willow Nightingale in the head, like as blatant as can be, with one of the women's tag team title belts. And they call for the disqualification. As lame of a finish as you will ever see on an AEW show. And at that point, it's like, wait a minute. Something doesn't make sense here. There's no way that that was the planned finish of this match. So they're beating on Willow Nightingale, and Nigel McGuinness mentioned on commentary that Penelope is hurt. I guess he was trying to explain the finish away here and saying, Penelope Ford's outside the ring and she's hurt. And so when this was all over, it was Lena Cross and Megan Bayne standing tall. Not a doubt in my mind that we were going to get new tag team champions tonight. And not a doubt in my mind that they called an audible here. There's no way this was the planned finish of this match. Whatever you think about AEW, it is very rare that we will get any kind of disqualification, let alone one this lame. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense why she would run into the ring with the belt and cause, her friends to lose. So they had to call something on the fly, and this is what they came up with. But Penelope, obviously, she suffered some sort of foot injury, knee injury, some sort of leg injury. There was somebody who posted a photo online of her sitting on the ground outside, head in her hands, crying. She was obviously very distressed. The finish sucked, but again, I can't really hold it against them too much because what are you going to do? What do you do in this situation? Shit happens, and then you gotta pivot. Somebody gets hurt, and it sucks. And you got to try to get out of it as quickly as possible. And it's just crazy to me that this is the second time now in 48 hours on a wrestling show where someone was hurt and they were scrambling to try to change the finish on the fly. You know, Monday night it was Bronson Reed. And the referee's feeding messages to Jey Uso and Chad Gable, and they're trying to figure out, where do we go from here? Right? Bronson Reed was supposed to win and go to the Elimination Chamber. Instead, Jey Uso was going to yeet his way into Chicago on Saturday now. And here, I suspect we would have new women's tag team champions. Now, I don't mind it so much just because I would prefer, and I think we might, get Willow and Megan Bayne one-on-one at Revolution for the TBS title. But if they wanted to, if let's say Penelope is going to be out for an extended period of time, she needs surgery, whatever the case is, you could just plug Lena Cross into that spot. And you have Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, and you could put the women's tag team titles on them. So there are ways around it. But I just, I feel bad for Penelope Ford. She just came back from an injury last month. Right? She was out with a shoulder injury, I believe. And missed blood and guts, and she missed 2 or 3 months there. She just came back, and then this happened. Now, we don't know the extent of the injury. Maybe it's one of those things where, hey, dodged a bullet, not as bad as we thought. Back in a few weeks, that's the best that we can hope for. But I feel bad for her. You look at that photo of her. She seems to know, like, this doesn't look good. So unfortunately, that put a damper on the show tonight. But after this, we had a battle of the heavyweights with Brody King trying to get back into the world title hunt after his loss in Australia. One-on-one against Mark Davis. So this is exactly what you would expect this kind of match to be. 2 big guys going in there and just beating the holy hell out of each other. There was a slugfest that ensued after a commercial break. Both men switched to clothesline attempts until Brody turned it into a black hole slam, followed up with a tope suicida. Davis fought back. He sent King into the barricade, missed a running charge. That allowed King to hit a crossbody up against the LED board. Back inside, King connected on his corner cannonball. He wanted a DVD. Davis, though, slipped out into a sleeper hold. King escaped. He started stomping on the injured hand. Remember last week against Jon Moxley, the bloody hand? So he starts stomping on the hand. And at that point, they traded short arm lariats. Davis ducked into a released German. He missed a home run shot. King, though, hit a backdrop driver. Davis popped right up and blasted him with a lariat into the reset. Davis missed another lariat. King answered with multiple lariats of his own. And then on one last one, he swung for the fences. And he clotheslined him down, and he picks up the win. So when the match is over here, Brody gets on the mic, and he says, "Swerve." He wants him to look him in the eye and tell him that he isn't who he says he is. He is number 1 in violence. He is the most dangerous man in AEW. He said, "Revolution, March 15th, my backyard. I'm looking for a fight." So then we see Swerve and Nana watching in the back. Swerve smirks. He walks off. But now Bandito, who was out there with Brody King, he takes the mic and he says, "You know what? I'm looking for a fight too." And we hear Andrade El Idolo's music, and he walks out. Somebody made a comment that he walked out there looking like something out of Peaky Blinders. I'm aware of Peaky Blinders. I didn't actually watch the show, but that's actually very accurate. But he walks out there with Don Callis, and there were no words exchanged. Bandito got out on the ramp, and they weren't that far from each other, 10 feet from each other. And Bandito does the gun salute, and then Andrade puts his fist out. So without any words, we basically got an acceptance here. And neither of these matches are official. But in one segment here, we basically had 2 new matches added to the Revolution card. Now, I will point one thing out, and hopefully it was nothing. I just got done talking about the injury to Penelope Ford. When this match was over, if you go back and watch, the doctor slid into the ring, and the doctor and the referee were checking up on Mark Davis. And they rushed him out of the ring. And he left on his own 2 feet. He was a little wobbly. but they helped him to the back. Could be nothing, or it could be that Mark Davis got his bell rung too. I don't know. But that was something I noticed there at the end of that match. But in terms of these matches, I think I even said a few weeks ago, I said, like, when I'm trying to think, or last week, like, what do you do with Swerve on the card? Forget him possibly interfering in the main event. Like, who do you put him in the ring with? And I think I mentioned the name Brody King. It's just a match that makes sense. Especially now if Swerve's like full on heel, Brody's going to go in there, his hometown. He's going to be like the big returning hero. That's going to be a hell of a match. But Andrade and Bandito, that's going to be fucking incredible. So those are two big matches to add to that card. Renee was backstage with Kyle Fletcher. He's back from Australia. She congratulates him on his recent TNT title win, but this is a business where you don't get to celebrate for too long. And on Collision, Tommaso Ciampa said that he was coming for the TNT title that he lost. Fletcher says that Ciampa held the belt for what, 2 weeks? Because it's no longer Sylvie, it's now Pinky. Because the TNT title now has a pink background. It's more like salmon. Like Mark Henry's jacket. That's what Fletcher was wearing. It kind of matched the belt. So it's not Sylvie, it's Pinky now. And he calls himself the best TNT champion of all time. So Kazuchika Okada, the international champion, walks in. He says that he and Kyle are both champions, unlike Takeshita. And he proposes that on Collision, for the first time ever, the two of them team up. So it's not Proto Shida. Instead, it's going to be Proto Okada. And you can hear the fans in the building. They popped. Kyle says he likes that idea, and they shake on it. Okada had a big grin on his face. So he continues to take shots at Takeshita, especially when Takeshita isn't even there. I think we're going to be waiting a while before we get that match. We're going to be waiting until August. That's when we're going to get Okada and Takeshita. We're going to get it at Wembley. Mark my words. They close the show with the Anything Goes 10-man tag team Mile High Madness match with the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and the Rascalz against FTR, Ricochet, and the Gates of Agony. Now, the Rascalz are coming off a win in an eliminator match over FTR on Saturday. So now they were in the main event of Dynamite tonight. They were in the main event of back-to-back shows. Jack Perry is the first one out. Comes out, everyone's singing, Tarzan Boy. And he gets up on the ropes. As he's posing on the ropes, he gets attacked from behind by FTR and the Demand, right? Ricochet, the Gates, they immediately make a beeline for Jack Perry. I mean, it is anything goes. So now here come the Bucks and the Rascalz to even up the odds. And we ended up getting a split screen here, like we do for Anarchy in the Arena. This is when I knew, like, taking notes on this is going to be impossible. Absolutely impossible. So the one thing about these types of matches I fucking hate is trying to keep track of what's going on as a reviewer and trying to take notes. And it's like, after a while, it's just like, you know what? Fuck this. Forget it. I gave you the Cliff Notes version. Although I think I did a pretty good job here, but we got the split screen, and because these boys are fighting everywhere. They're in the crowd, and they're ringside, they're outside the ring, and they continue to loop Tarzan Boy over and over and over again. So Stokely Hathaway was about to be shoved down a flight of stairs by the Young Bucks. FTR saved him from certain doom. They used Stokely to actually knock Nick Jackson down the stairs instead. Perry and Ricochet, they ended up in the ring. The music stopped, but then it restarted again, and everybody popped. Perry clotheslined him out to the floor. He hit him with a satellite DDT. Toa Leona sent Jack Perry into orbit as he knocked him into the Timekeeper's area. The Demand and the Rascalz, they came back to the ring. FTR and the Bucks, they kept on fighting in the crowd. So Toa Leona is about to throw Desmond Xavier into the fucking multiverse a little bit later on when Myron Reed comes out, the other Rascal. And he comes out on stage. He's got a fire extinguisher. And he hits Toa Leona with the fire extinguisher. He knocks him back. They're on the ramp. And Toa Leona ends up back in the ring. So Myron Reed backs up. He charges down the ramp. and he hits a diving, leaping cutter off the ramp into the ring. Then after this, he did a dive. FTR catches him, though, and then they slammed him down face first on top of the announce desk, which was opposite the hard cam. So, like, here's the ramp, and you could see the announcers. They were right there on camera all night. So Perry grabs a vacuum cleaner from underneath the ring. A vacuum cleaner filled with dust. Dax Harwood has taken a microphone now, and he is asking people, please help me, please help me. Perry hits him with the vacuum. Then he breaks the vacuum enclosure. Like he removed like the enclosure full of dust from the vacuum. He slams it, breaks it over Toa Leona's head, and dust goes everywhere. And poor Nigel McGuinness is sitting in the, right there ringside at the announce desk. And he's choking and he's coughing on all the dust. So the Bucks return with a trash can. They hit some double team offense to get rid of GOA. Nick then hit a senton splash onto the trash can, which was placed on Ricochet. The Bucks line him up for a super kick, but here comes FTR. And the Rascalz are back as well. So both teams unleash a super kick party on FTR. The Bucks grab a table. They set it up on the floor outside. Then they try to suplex Toa Leona out onto the table, but Toa Leona brings them both back in all by himself. We got a quadruple super kick to Toa Leona from all the baby faces. The Bucks and the Rascalz, they take off. They wipe out FTR and Bishop Khan on the floor. Perry tries to pile drive Toa Leona, and he's kind of slowly muscling him up. And then Toa Leona backdrops out of it, and in doing so, he backdrops back Perry. That's his brother. He backdropped Jack Perry, who turned into Back Perry, over the top rope. He took this hellacious bump through a table out on the floor. So the Demand, they take turns flattening the Rascalz. GOA hit a superplex on Desmond Xavier, and then FTR hit their Power and Glory combo. Ricochet then finished with a springboard 450. This was all in rapid succession. So he makes the cover, and the Bucks and Rascalz, they, at the last second, sprint over for the save. So the Rascalz hit a double team Spanish fly to Ricochet through a table. Perry tries to sunset flip Toa Leona through another table, but he needs the Bucks to hit tandem super kicks first. So basically, he was on the apron, and Perry did a sunset out over the top rope, and he's pulling him, and he's trying to pull him off the apron. He won't go nowhere until the Bucks come over and double super kick, and then all of a sudden, backwards he goes. And make sure you put your hands behind your head. Very smart. Protect your head on the landing. And down through the table he goes. So the Bucks avoid the shatter machine. They send Dax and Cash outside, crashing through another table. I mean, there were so many broken tables here. The Rascalz hit their hot fire flame to the good Bishop as Perry planted Ricochet with the Destroyer. He was then hit with a BTE trigger. And finally, the Bucks launched Perry, who hit Ricochet with a flying knee strike. And he got the pin to win it for the babyfaces. You know, it's pretty amazing to think. For all the action I just described in this main event, which went beyond the top of the hour, the Jon Moxley Clon match actually went longer than this. I don't know how that happened, but somehow that match got more time than this match did. Look, the live crowd went wild for this, especially with the music playing. The music did stop at some point, but it was probably playing for about half the match. It was basically an Anarchy in the Arena match, but on Dynamite. That's basically what it was, you know? And like, I remember last year, I had a lot of fun with Anarchy in the Arena. And I had fun with this too. It's dizzying to keep track of these, you know, big moves, because again, you're not looking at a match here where psychology comes into play. This is not about psychology. This is not about storytelling. You take 10 guys, you throw them in there with no rules, and you just let them go. And that's all it is. You know, it's like having a 16 tables, ladders, and chairs match. There's not a whole lot of psychology involved there. But you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of big bumps and a lot of big, wacky, crazy, insane spots. And that's exactly what we got. It was a giant spot fest. and the fans had a lot of fun with it. I was certainly never bored, watching it. And Jack Perry gets the win over Ricochet in the end, which at least gives him a win now heading into what I presume will be yet another title match here for the national title, probably at Revolution. But also on the show, we got 2 more matches. Not confirmed, but strongly hinted at, with Brody and Swerve, and then Bandito and Andrade for Revolution, which again, that match is going to be fucking incredible. And now we know the stipulation. We already knew it, but it was confirmed. What the stipulation is going to be for MJF and Hangman at Revolution. I wasn't a fan of everything they did here on this show, but we got enough good wrestling and action that I can tell you I was certainly never bored. Not like I was on Monday. It was certainly not a boring show. And the only thing that sucked was the end of the women's tag team title match because of the injury. They had to call an audible, and the finish was fucking terrible. But it's unfortunate what happened to Penelope Ford. Again, hopefully she's not too badly injured, but best wishes to her and Bronson Reed, who, if he has not already, is very shortly going to be undergoing surgery for a torn bicep. So we're not going to be seeing him for a while, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what the verdict is on Penelope Ford. But I had fun with the show tonight. I don't know if I liked it top to bottom as much as last week, but I thought that there was enough to like here on this show. And again, another hot crowd. I don't want to keep making comparisons, but it's hard not to. When you watch a lot of wrestling, and everybody who is watching this live right now, you fall into this category as well, right? There is not a single person who is watching me right now who does not watch multiple wrestling shows throughout the week or keep up with highlights from multiple wrestling shows. So you see a lot of wrestling, and it's hard not to compare when you see one show where the crowd, it sounds like they were at a funeral. And then you see a much smaller crowd, but big enough that they're making all this noise and they're having so much fun. And it's like, how could there be how can you go from this to this? Why is there such a gap of enthusiasm, between the two? And it's striking, to watch those 2 different shows in a 48-hour period. And again, you have a building with 11,000 people and it sounds like there's nobody there. And then you watch a show where there's 3,000 people and they make it sound like 5 or 6. It's pretty incredible. What did you think of Dynamite from Denver? 65.3% thumbs up for tonight's show. 34.7% thumbs down. So another positive score. Not as positive as last week. I don't remember what the number was last week. I know it was a little bit higher than that. But still, Dynamite recently, this has been a flip from what it was before. And all they need to do is just keep building on it. Just keep building on it. Consistency is key. Revolution is one of their biggest shows of the year. Card is coming together. It's not complete. The card is coming together. And you just have to keep building towards Revolution. That's it. That's all you need to do. All right, let's take a look at your super chats. Start with our boy Joseph here. Happy Wednesday to you as well, Joseph. I hope you're having a good night. Was I a fan of Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee? I like Bruce Lee. I like Brandon Lee in The Crow. Can't tell you anything else I saw him in. Yeah, last week it was almost 80-20. Yeah, last week had a higher score. Last week was the better show overall. Were you a fan of martial arts and karate? Was I a fan of it? I didn't practice in the martial arts as a youngster. I did not take karate. I wish my parents had signed me up for a karate class. Although I guess it's never too late. Solomonster does karate. Do you remember Billy Blanks, who did the Tai Bo workouts? Yes, I used to see his infomercials quite a bit. I wonder if Tai Bo is still a thing. Did you see the trailer online for the Mortal Kombat 2 movie? Literally before Dynamite started tonight, I watched the new trailer. I thought it was awesome. I am really looking forward to that movie. I am really looking forward to the Masters of the Universe movie. Like, I'm psyched. And I'll see the Street Fighter movie as well. I just haven't seen anything like a trailer lately. But I think that one is, that one's coming out in like September or October. So we have some time. I know that the Mortal Kombat movie is coming out in May. And then I think Masters of the Universe is June 5th. So I'm amped up for it. Which one are you more excited for this year? Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat 2? Mortal Kombat. Says, I'll be honest, I enjoyed Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook more than Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Okay, well, I disagree. I'm the exact opposite. Do you think The Undertaker should have taken over WWE creative when Vince stepped down instead of Triple H? What are his credentials for creative? I mean, he's doing work right now with AAA, but it's a very small body of work that he's put together there. Triple H came in, at least he had those years with NXT. What did The Undertaker have? So, no. Thank you, Joseph. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury, what would you think of Vanguard 1 being in the crate in WWE? It would be a decent way to set up Usos against the Hardys at WrestleMania. I mean, it would explain not having a human being in there. If you had Vanguard 1, if it was a drone, that would at least make more sense. You know what? Believe me, I've heard people pitch worse ideas over the past week for what or who could be inside the crate. Unfortunately, I've given up hope of Usos and Lucha Bros. I have no idea why we're not building to that. Doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, unless Penta's winning the Intercontinental title on Monday. I have no idea why we're not setting that match up. GMB. Chelsea Green is bad in ring, in my opinion. Fact that people only bring up the Penta match from a decade ago as her only good match is a major red flag. Well, what other matches do you have to point to? Like, she was doing a comedy gimmick in TNA as Laurel Van Ness. I remember her doing the character, but it wasn't like they were leaning on her as an important piece of the Knockouts division. She's not bad in the ring. She's not the best they have, but she's not bad in the ring. Dried Chicken says, I love Megabad, the Triangle of Madness, the Babes of Wrath, the Timeless Love Bombs, and the Brawling Birds. The AEW Women's Division is all grit. Well, you created women's tag team titles, so you need to build up your women's tag team division. Otherwise, what's the point of having women's tag team titles? And the King Caleb. Solo, first time sending a super chat. Quick question for you. Is there any chance that HOG comes to West Michigan? Also, why exactly did Santos Escobar re-sign with WWE? He did not even have a Rumble spot. Santos Escobar re-signed with WWE because they flashed a fuckload of money in his face. Apparently, they blew him away with an offer even better than whatever he was making before. So I can't blame the guy for that. And yes, he's done absolutely nothing since then, outside of him unmasking at that one AAA show. And as far as West Michigan, there are no plans right now. There are no plans right now. Doesn't mean that there won't be in the future. It's just not something that we're looking at in the immediate future. We just announced Las Vegas. Thursday night, April 16th at the Palms. Right after CMLL. Got CMLL and then HOG that night. That's the Thursday before WrestleMania. So that'll be our official Vegas debut. We did a show in Vegas. It was a joint show a couple of years ago. But this is the first real HOG show in Vegas. And then in May, we're going to be coming back to Los Angeles. We'll make the announcement soon about the date. Dry Chicken says the vacuum cleaner spot was very funny. I'll tell you what the message was behind all the dust coming out of the vacuum. Wrestling is about getting down and dirty. Nothing clean and polished. I fucking hate dust. I'm allergic to dust. Swerve Strickland will need that Stone Cold Steve Austin 2001 heel heat. Well, let's hope it goes better than his 2001 heel turn did. Mr. Rod, is it just me or does AEW do the Texas Death Match to death? Yeah, they do them too much. They do them way too much. Fried Chicken, why MJF did not throw the fake quarter into the crowd? Because he didn't want it to be exposed. Hangman threw it into the crowd, though. I think he threw the coin into the crowd. Arabian Night says, where do you think David Finlay lands, WWE or AEW? I think he goes to AEW and gets involved at Revolution in the Derby program. I think War Dogs become a trio. I think that would be a good landing spot for him. I don't have full faith that WWE would do right by him. You know, his friends are already in AEW, and it would make sense to me. I think that would be the better fit. Dry Chicken says Swerve Strickland is yin, Trick Williams is the yang. And Justin G, I wanted to go, but had no PTO. Did not get to watch. Oh, you wanted to go to Dynamite? Well, apparently you missed a hell of a action-packed main event with vacuum cleaners and broken tables and all sorts of chaos. Hey, Retro. Mold is far worse. I'll take dust any day. I hate them all. Is it okay to hate them all equally? I think they're all terrible. Anyway, we spun the wheel. As you can see here, the goal was 324 likes. And we are currently sitting at 396 likes. Which means that it is time here on a slow night. It is Dynamite night. Not surprising. But it is time to be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen,
see, even on a slow night, you guys still hit the goal. So we can be the booker. That's what I like to see. At this point, I don't think WWE is doing right by anyone right now. Well, you're not completely wrong there. Well, here on a Wednesday night, it is appropriate that we land on Top Flight. Dante and Darius Martin. Going to take to the skies here in Tag Team Be the Booker. And they are going to take on... Oh, this is not going to end well for Top Flight as they battle the Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior, the Mega Maniacs. Or the Macho Man. No, the Ultimate Maniac. Why do I call them Mega Maniacs? The Ultimate Maniacs, which lasted all of what, 2 weeks? They wrestled, I think, one match together on TV. Didn't quite make it to Survivor Series. I'm belling that one. You know what this match would be? This would be a warm-up squash on a Saturday morning for the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man. That's what this would be. All right, we have Jade Cargill. Or as Joe Tessitore calls her, Jade Cargill. Former TBS champion Jade Cargill, reigning WWE Women's Champion. Taking on the reigning Ring of Honor Women's Pure Champion, Deonna Purrazzo. I did a whole segment on Deonna Purrazzo on the Uncrowned Wrestling Show yesterday. Towards the end of the show, she's not very happy about the way that she's being used or not used. Even though she is a champion right now in Ring of Honor. She was voicing her displeasure. So if you missed it, go back and check out that segment from the Uncrowned show that I did yesterday. And you know what? She's not wrong. She ain't wrong. Main event time. I'm booking her more than Tony Khan is. There's something wrong with this picture. All right, in our main event, on one side we have Samoa Joe. Oh, this is going to be a good main event. I can feel it. Breaking news, Nails has escaped prison. Oh, no. That's not good. When we get a breaking news update like this and Be the Booker, it's usually terrible news. And now we know that Nails is on the loose. So we have to spin again. That does not mean Be the Booker is over. It just means that you got to lock your doors. Samoa Joe against Moose. What does this mean? What does this mean for Be the Booker now that Nails is a free man again? Somebody tell Vince. Vince McMahon is not safe. He's sweating bullets right now. Didn't end well the last time that Nails and Vince McMahon were in the same room together backstage. All right, well, thank you for joining me here on a Wednesday night. We got in, we got out. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be live with you again on Friday night. We'll be talking some SmackDown. I certainly hope it's better than Raw Monday nights, because that show fucking sucked. So we'll see what they have in store for us on SmackDown on Friday night, and hopefully we'll do some more Be the Booker. So stop on by, bring your super chats, we'll hang out and have fun. And again, go back if you missed it and show some love for the Uncrowned Wrestling Show, episode number 3. You had a big sound off on Sunday, and then we had another 90 minutes of the Uncrowned show yesterday. Again, it's not on my feed. Go check out the Ariel Helwani Show podcast feed, audio only. You will find the show there. And leave some feedback. Tweet me your questions. Maybe your question will end up on the show. At Solomonster. And make sure you put the hashtag Uncrowned. And it may end up on the show next week, episode 4. Be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great night, and I will see you back here on Friday night for some SmackDown. Until then, take care, guys.